Hello and welcome back once again to After the Credits. Went back over to the Dollar Theater today, and the other two movies I wanted to see were gone. Drove all the way over there, and nothing was playing that I wanted to see, and I was like, well, crap, I drove all the way over here for nothing. You know, I could probably see something just because I made the trip over here. And I'm looking through the marquee, and they do have a couple things that they just opened, which is probably why the other two got dropped. And the only one that I considered seeing was one that actually came out, I think, back in January. And I didn't want to see it back then, but I was like, well, I'm over here, what the hell. And I don't know why they're putting up movies from January and dropping stuff that was just out in, like, mid to early March. But, yeah, so today, I went and saw Norm of the North. Jesus Christ. Now, normally, you guys know from my previous videos, if you watch them, normally I don't mind children's movies or, like, animated stuff that's targeted towards younger audiences. This, however, was probably the most convoluted, confusing, no story-driven movie that I've ever seen from a children's animated feature. No idea what they were trying to go for in this. So we start out with Norm trying to hunt down a seal, and then he's telling the seal his story, and he's kind of talking about how when he first found out he could talk to humans, where none of the other polar bears can. So at first he's kind of like trying to be friendly with the humans, while everyone else is like, you know, humans are evil. And then like it cuts to him being older, and then everyone else is kind of like, oh, the humans just come here to visit, you know, so let's put on a show for them. And there's like a bunch of singing and dancing and stuff. And then Norm is all of a sudden like, no, humans are bad, you know, we have to keep them out of here, we shouldn't dance for their entertainment. So then they find out that some genius is trying to build condos in the Arctic. So Norm decides that since he can talk to humans, he'll go to New York and try and talk this guy out of building condos and preserving the landscape of the Arctic. So he hitches a ride back to New York on the model home when it's removed, because it was just there to shoot a commercial. So when they're flying it back, he gets on board and flies back with it. So he gets to New York, and while he was still in the Arctic and they were filming the commercial, he was kind of in the background and of one of the videos. So the guy who owns the real estate company was kind of like, you know, I need that bear, you know, I need the Arctic to sell the Arctic. So it turns out he's holding auditions for a bear to be the spokesman for these new Arctic homes. So Norm figures the easiest way in is to audition, and everyone kind of thinks he's just a guy in a suit. Turns out he's a real polar bear. So then he does all the auditioning, he gets the part, and he goes on talk shows, and he's like boosting this guy's approval rating. And I guess ultimately his goal is that once you get to the approval rating that you want, he's just going to be like, okay, now that everyone loves me, don't buy these condos, preserve the Arctic. And I kept waiting for the bit where, you know, in most of these stories, the person gets too involved in what they're doing and kind of forgets their path and who they are and has to be reminded of it. So I kept waiting for that to happen, especially when his approval rating's growing, and I'm like, okay, he's eventually going to forget, you know, like why he's there and buy into his own hype, and then someone's going to have to remind him, you know, you're here to save the Arctic, not to destroy it. That doesn't happen. He just gets up to where the approval rating is, and then he tries to tell everyone his real agenda, and the bad guy kind of caught on to what was going on, so he cuts his microphone and like pieces together this little audio track of him telling him to endorse the homes in the Arctic. So then Norm kind of quits and walks away, and he's kind of pissed off at everyone. Then there's like this side story with his grandfather, who's like the only other bear that can speak to humans, who went missing like a decade ago or something like that. So he ends up finding his grandfather, surprise, and him and his grandfather try and stop this guy, and he ends up like meeting up with these investors and like telling them, you know, I'm a bear who can really talk, and here's what's really going on. And then the investor's just like, yeah, okay, I'll back out of this deal. And it's like, you already have the approval. You know, what kind of investor would back out of, you know, I don't know. It was just really weird. So the investors back out, so the guy's kind of screwed, and then they end up getting captured, and he's supposed to kill them off. They end up escaping, make their way back to the Arctic, and don't really resolve anything because the guy still has, well, I mean, I guess they do because he ends up getting outed as being like a con man and stuff like that, and he didn't really have full approval before constructing these homes that were going to be shipped to the Arctic and assembled. So the bad guy kind of gets outed, but Norm's like already gone by that point. He's back in the Arctic, and then he has a human friend who's kind of been helping him through this whole thing, and she's got a daughter, and like her and her daughter are talking, and the daughter's like, you know, I kind of miss Norm, and then the mom's like, yeah, so do I, but you know, he's back home now, you know, and he's got his own family to think about, you know, and it's like you have access to money and helicopters and stuff. Fly to the Arctic and see him. But no, they just kind of cut over to him, and you know, he's kind of sitting there with his family now, and kind of saying like how he misses them. But see, he has the less opportune way of getting off the Arctic and back to New York to visit them, where they can just get on a helicopter and go see him anytime they want. But they don't. They're just like, oh, we miss him, but you know, we're gonna stay here in New York because that's where we belong. Yeah, really, the story is just like not a story. It's like they're trying to make a children's movie story, but then they're just like, what do kids know? They're not going to be paying attention at this point. They're going to be jumping up and down the theater, and we can do anything in this movie, and it won't matter. You know, let's throw in a couple fart jokes just to make the kids laugh. And even that kind of didn't come until almost the end of the movie. Like, at one point, you know, he's kind of like, act natural, and like the little lemmings that are with him like do the pull my finger thing, and they start farting, and then he goes, not that natural, and then like the fart goes on for like a minute and a half, and then you hear the little lemming go, Lemmy, you know, like he's saying sorry or whatever, and then like the lemming keeps farting through the rest of the movie. Like every time you see him, he's like farting, and then like at one point he's underwater, and all the other ones are like swimming around. You just see like bubbles floating around him, so he farted underwater. And it's just, it came out of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, let's shoehorn in this fart joke as a running thing that we didn't put in until like the last 15 minutes of the movie. And it's just stupid. You know, hey, let's make kids laugh so if they are happen to be paying attention, they forget that the story doesn't make any damn sense, and we can just go on from there. It's like they wanted to make a kids movie, but they didn't know the first thing about what makes a kids movie work, so they're just like, oh, let's do all this stupid crap that we think makes children's movies good, but we don't really know what we're doing, because we're not a children's animation studio. And that was the other thing. This thing had like 6 studios attached to it, and it's this bad. I mean, seriously. Pixar, DreamWorks, Disney, you know, all them, they have one house working on something, they make them magical. You have 6 different studios assisting in your CGI animation fest, and not one of them could write a damn script to save their life. And it's... Okay, anyway, enough about this stupid movie. I've been rambling about it for like 10 minutes. As far as the star rating on this one, I give it like a 1. You know, it was a movie. I mean, it's watchable. Just don't expect too much out of the story. Don't expect it to make any damn sense. Don't expect it to be funny, because it wasn't. I wouldn't even take your kids to see this one, honestly. It's an insult to your children's intelligence. Yeah, so I honestly kind of want to rank it a 0, but like I said, it was watchable. So it gets a 1. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about this. Don't go watch this. If it wasn't for the fact I'd already driven all the way across town and there were no other movies playing that I wanted to see, I probably wouldn't have watched this one, but, you know, like I said, I made that trip, so here we are. So yeah, not sure what's coming out next. I think some more stuff opens, not this Friday, but the next Friday. Yeah, so there should be some new stuff coming up in about a week or so. Or maybe it is this Friday. I don't even know. I don't know. So yeah, be something coming up probably towards the end of the week or early next week, or late next week, I'm not sure. But that is it for this episode. Again, as always, thanks for watching. Remember, like, comment, rate, subscribe, share the video. The links are in the description and up here in the corner if you're watching on YouTube. And until next time, as always, we will see you after the credits.